Welcome to episode 421 of the Find Your Food Voice podcast. Today, we are breaking down how to move away from dieting while impacted by trauma with special guest Meg Bowman. Let's get to it. Hey there, Voice Finder. I am Julie Duffy Dillon, registered dietitian and your host. Today is a letter episode. What does that mean? Well, since I started this podcast way back in January of 2016, yes, we are almost 10 years old here, but this podcast was founded on letters from people just like you. I had letters written by listeners that would address the letter to food, and we would have you break down all the nitty gritty, like get into what's really tough about your relationship with food. And then me and sometimes a guest would explore and hopefully give you some pointers to help you get unstuck, some first steps forward. And what I'm using today is an archive letter. This is a letter that I have answered before, but I'm pulling out again because it was so impactful to me and to listeners. And I have a special guest today. Her name is Meg Bowman. And Meg is the author of the forthcoming book, This Is Your Body on Trauma: How to Nourish Safety, Resilience, and Connection with Polyvagal Informed Nutrition. I'm so excited for this book, and I love that Meg and I have very similar ways of helping people and really just use a different language. And so you're going to see this polyvagal informed nutrition combined with finding your food voice. And I hope it adds another tool for you. So, a little bit about Meg. In her book, she explores how nutrition can be a powerful tool for trauma recovery, nervous system regulation, which is a big part of what we explore in this episode, and building resilience. Alongside her writing, Meg is the co founder of Nutrition Hive, a group practice specializing in mental health, GI, and hormone related nutrition care. At Nutrition Hive, she works with clients seeking compassionate, evidence based support at the intersection of food and emotional well being. I have a link to her book below. It is coming out in about a month. So pre orders mean so much. I can just say, as someone who's written a book myself, like pre orders mean so much. So I encourage you to pre order using the link below. And I can't wait to hear what you think about it once you get your hands on it. But in this episode, again, we have a letter writer who is trying to apply intuitive eating principles and is kind of, they feel like they're fumbling. They feel like they're doing it wrong. And I hope that the tools that Meg brings to this episode helps this letter writer. And I hope it helps you. Maybe you also have felt like you've just been flailing around at times as you're trying to move away from dieting. Before we get to this episode's letter and hearing from Meg, I want to tell you about the Find Your Food Voice book. The Find Your Food Voice book is something that coincides really well with the discussion of trauma. And this is the book that I put together that brings together all of the tips and tools and strategies that I used to help my one-on-one clients with. And they would often, this would be work that we would cover in a year or two. So for just $20, you get all of the tools and strategies that I would teach my clients. So if you tried intuitive eating or you've tried for so long to recover from your eating disorder and you just can't seem to make the next move forward, Find Your Food Voice was written for you. All right, we're going to take a quick sponsor break. And when we get back, you'll hear the Dear Food letter. Dear Food, I am not sure if you and I can ever have a peaceful relationship. Lately, I am exhausted with recovery and the daily struggles of trying to eat intuitively, feeling like I'm failing, and wanting to change my body. It feels like there is too much stress in my life that I do not have any energy left to try to go against the mainstream's ideas on food and dieting, that on bad days, I wish that I had never heard of intuitive eating and embarked on this journey. I realized that we had a complicated relationship after reading Intuitive Eating for the first time. I bought it on a whim, looking for an end to the food and exercise tracking madness, but still desperately wanting to change my body. I wanted to teach myself the right way to eat. I thought I was doing well, eating intuitively, and generally feeling at peace. This was until it was pointed out to me that I was following the intuitive eating diet, and this realization launched a pretty steep decline in my recovery. I know that the behaviors I had were not healthy and that at one time I realized that I needed to help with them. But since I'm not able to separate intuitive eating with the intuitive eating diet, I am so confused and apprehensive to try to relearn it. Was everything I had learned the last 3 years completely wrong? And how could I have missed the mark so much? Part of me wants recovery, and the other part of me knows it will continue to be very challenging. And I do not feel like I have it in me to stay on this path. I don't think I can go back to how I was before, but I continue to be in what feels like a half recovered space. Working through my disordered food behaviors illuminated that I have a lot of personal trauma and feelings that I was using disordered behaviors to cover up and deal with. As I work through those, I noticed the disordered food behaviors creeping back like an old friend, wanting to help me cope. I realize diet culture is everywhere. And because it's everywhere, I feel exhausted by constantly defending my position to people and not giving into the allure of what I know now to be another diet. My extended family gatherings that involve food consist of comments about amounts of food, good, bad food, needing to work off the food, or some special ingredient that will save us all from disease. Yoga has been a refuge, but walking into the studio, I might read a flyer for a weight loss cleanse, overhear conversations about diets, hear body negativity from other yogis, and even some of the teachers. I attended a yoga teacher training information session, thinking it would be a good challenge for myself to take my yoga practice to a new level, and left feeling completely defeated after learning that one of the training modules was around how to eat like a yogi. Sharing my own baked treats with coworkers inevitably invites a litany of body and diet comments as well as their own personal justifications for eating or not eating the food I brought. I created an Instagram account for my dog because I thought it would be a fun way to share the funny things he does. Do you know how much diet culture permeates Instagrams about dogs? A lot. I cannot shut off the continuous diet culture that is everywhere in my life. Something has to change. Perhaps I am not on board with intuitive eating and haze, and that there are still pieces of diet culture I'm hanging on to. All I know right now, food, is that I am mad. I am mad that I know that my food behaviors aren't healthy for me, but that I want to keep doing them because I feel like it felt like I was in control. I have so much shame for having this problem at all that I can hardly admit it to myself. I justify this by fully embracing that I hate my body and that, of course, then the disordered eating makes sense. I'm so tired of starting over with different therapists, finding yet another book that I put my salvation into, hoping that yes, maybe this one will click and I will magically love my body and I will become an intuitive eater. Will I ever feel normal around new food? Will I ever want to take care of my body instead of punishing myself for making a mistake at work, getting into an argument with a loved one, or accidentally reading a diet message on a magazine cover and feel self loathing? Can I enjoy you food without feeling an intense desire to want to exercise or restrict later? Can I trust you food knowing that my IBS may cause days or weeks of intense intestinal pain and fear of you food? Will I be able to go to my doctor and not be completely obsessed for weeks after accidentally seeing my weight and shame for feeling good that it was lower than I thought? It all feels too much and I feel entirely ungrounded. I realize that this letter is even contradictory, stating that I wish I could even have my old food behaviors back, and also knowing that I have learned and made progress. I am just not sure, food, that I'm on the right path, or even what the right path is. Sincerely, wanting to check out. All right, Voice Finder, let's get Meg on the phone and we can talk about this letter. Hey there, Meg. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yay! I'm excited. It's nice to meet you. We've never
Yeah,
met before, so this is so lovely.
I'm super
And
thrilled. I've been a low-key stalker online for years.
I love Loki stalking. That's so fun. Well, did you get a chance to read the letter?
I did. I did. There was so much in here.
Yeah, it's a lot. But it also is like very familiar to me. Like it feels
Yeah,
like a lot of people have similar experiences when they're like trying to move away from dieting or trying to move away from their eating disorder. There's some similar like milestones that I picked up. Did you
for
too?
sure. For
Yeah.
sure. And just that that kind of pattern of, the trauma that was just so clear in the narrative,
Mm-hmm.
from before going into it, through the process of trying, and now even today, it just, boy, that fingerprint was all over it.
Yeah. Well, of
Yeah,
course, that's why I thought of you with this letter
yeah,
because of mentioning trauma and you have a book coming out on trauma. So I was like, Meg,
yeah,
help me. So
yeah.
what's your big picture about what's going on with this person? What do you think's going on?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, of course, I'm going to make a guess.
Yeah,
And of
that's all
course,
we're doing.
if this was, a person in front of me, I would have 10,000 questions. Um, but the guess that I would make, like the thing that I see, about the challenge they're having, is when they talk about, I moved an intuitive eating pattern, but it really felt, I realized it really feels like an intuitive eating diet. My guess is the thing that didn't change was the nervous system survival state of it, right? Like from a polyvagal lens, as I kind of look at what they're saying, they never got back into that felt sense of safety, that ventral connection, and regulation. Even in their use of an intuitive eating framework, they really stayed quite, like their nervous system really stayed quite activated. And no wonder, I mean, no wonder it did. I mean, the thing that really struck me here was, when we talk about kind of where is our nervous system getting information, we get information from inside our body, and this person is getting it through their IBS, through their experience of chronic pain. Like they're getting
Hmm.
constant internal cues. And then they get information from outside their body, right? All those things, we go to the gym, we go to work. It's this assault of diet culture information coming at us. And then there's even the nervous system cues of danger that are coming in between relationships, between them and other people, right? And all they're experiencing inside, outside, and in between is just danger cues, danger cues, danger cues. And so, my perception is, wow, it makes it so hard to tune into the body.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether that for them was actually, I don't want to say an appropriate way to go after
Hmm.
intuitive eating, but like
Hmm.
maybe the most effective way. How, if you
Hmm.
are constantly getting these messages of pain, and don't kind of have the capacity to deal with them nervous system wise, like what does that look like to tune into your hunger and fullness cues? That's a little challenging.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you. Yeah, like I would imagine it's not like a magic wand.
Yeah,
Like you can go from like getting all that feedback and not being safe and not being in that place of like safety and in the nervous system.
yeah,
Like this seems like for many people it's just like the first kind of step towards it. I don't know, like or like how
yeah,
to kind of bring it in and while you're still like experiencing all of the trauma responses.
yeah,
And as you because it takes time. I mean, I've done trauma work with a therapist. Like that takes years to like
yeah,
really like help you and your body to be able to do a lot of healing. So what
yeah,
are you supposed to do? Like if you're like, I don't want to diet anymore. So like
yeah.
this seems like yeah, natural next step. And yeah, we're rooting for more. Like we're rooting for more like
Sure,
freedom. And
sure.
I don't know, I guess what I'm trying to say is like I think a lot of people will poo-poo like an intuitive eating diet and things like that. But I'm like, I don't think people are necessarily doing it right or wrong. Like it's not a
Yeah,
black and white thing. It's like you're applying and you're learning
yeah,
and figuring it out and making it your own. I don't know. Like to me that makes sense. And
absolutely, absolutely.
yeah.
I think the thing that really resonated with me, and admittedly, I did, slam your book last night. It was delightful. I
Which I
think it
think
was.
is like so like listener, she was telling me that she read my book last night. I'm like, wait, you read the whole thing last
No,
night?
this
She's
is
like,
totally
yeah.
what we do, right? This is totally what we do. We read a book a night. But I think the thing that you and I use different language, but I,
Hmm.
I think the thing that was so familiar to me, in your work, especially with that example of Paul, I think Paul was his
Hmm.
name that you
Hmm.
used, but was that intentionally turning toward experimentation.
Mm-hmm.
Intentionally turning toward the acknowledgement that it ain't going to be a one and done. Like, this is a
Yes.
practice, this is a process.
Mm-hmm.
And for her, I think that I don't know if this was a her, for this person, the letter writer,
Mm-hmm.
um, I think that the place that I would have started would not be attention on the body, it would be attention on the nervous system.
There you go.
So
Okay.
really that awareness of, can I name my nervous system state in the moment? Like, I am
Yes.
in sympathetic activation, I'm in dorsal shutdown, or I am actually feeling safe. And from that point, kind of use some of those guardrails that you're talking about. If we are
Mm-hmm.
in a survival state, like, let's use our guardrails. Let's have a plan for when we're in that state. And that's a totally different plan than when we're feeling regulated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I was just talking yesterday to somebody who literally feels no hunger cues. They're
Of
gone
course. Yeah.
when they're in a survival state. And so that plan looks very different from when they can intuitively eat, you
Mm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if someone who has no connection to their hunger cues,
Yeah.
what direction would you give them?
I mean, I almost always start with nervous system
Yeah.
regulation in one way or the other, right or wrong. I just find it, so frequently when there is an eating disorder or disordered eating, there has been a loss of that connection of safety from for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And if we can develop a common language, um, if they can start to name where they're at, like, it just transforms
Mm.
the experience of it. Because we know the stories that we tell ourselves, around food, that changes based on what our nervous system state is. And if we can name, okay, wow, I'm in a super uh like activated state. I'll give you an example.
Yes, I would love that.
Couple weeks ago, I had to go into downtown Chicago, which, like, that is a fear place for me. I don't like how the taxis honk at me. And I had to record the audio for my audiobook, which was also
uh,
terrifying because I've never
yeah.
done anything like
Yeah.
this
That's
before.
lots of pressure.
So much pressure. And in the weeks before that, like 4 weeks before that, my nervous system was so activated that it's like, you must make a list of exactly what you're going to eat that week.
Wow.
We're
My
going to
my
plan
phone
it
just
out.
chimed right when you said that too. That was
Sure.
funny. Did you hear that? It was like bing.
Totally. Totally. Right. I did this, like, this was the instinct that I had, was like,
Wow.
how can I
Yeah.
make myself feel safe? The way that I'm going to make myself feel safe is I'm going to make a shopping list. I'm going to, like, plan out my meals. I'm going to do whatever. And honestly, the thing that changed it was the second I realized that, because I know that's
Yes.
one of my cues of me moving into sympathetic energy, like a lot of
Yeah.
fix it, fix it, fix it energy. That's my home away
Mm.
from home.
Mm.
Because I knew that, I was able to go, oh, like, what do I need in the moment?
Yeah. Yeah. What do I need right now?
What do
What
I need right
what's
now?
what's the unmet need, or
Yeah.
like how whatever words work, I would say too. Like, yeah, being curious, like what's going on right now?
Yeah.
Like how can you insert that pause? And I
Yeah.
have to be honest with you too. Like I've learned about lots of different things with polyvagal theory, and one of the
Mhm.
things that's been very intimidating for me has been the
Yeah.
words. I'm like, I can't
Yeah.
remember the words.
Yeah.
And that's where like I'm remembering Julie in the 90s taking biochemistry and struggling. I always say I loved it so much that I took it twice.
Yeah.
I hope you hear that I'm being sarcastic there. But yeah, so like from like that point of view, if someone has hard, like feels like they can't access a lot of
Yeah.
the trauma information because of the words, do you have like a
Yep.
secret to that? Like how
Yep.
people can move through that?
So I personally always add a word. So I say
Okay.
sympathetic activation
Ooh,
and
okay.
dorsal shutdown,
To
or
help
ventral
remember.
regulation or ventral connection.
Okay.
Other people might use words like hyperactivation or hypoactivation.
Yeah.
Um, there can be sometimes we don't like hyper arousal, hypo arousal. Sometimes that's difficult
Mm-hmm.
language. But honestly, like, too much energy or too little energy, that's what it is.
There you go.
So
Okay.
if we can just, you know, kind of acknowledge that it is, I think that's the thing that polyvagal really, really, really inspires me to constantly try and remember is that it doesn't actually matter what words I use. If that's not the
Mm,
words that you resonate with, then we got to
yeah.
go with yours.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that so much. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it just,
Yeah.
as long as we're all on the same page,
Because it's
then we
about
can
your
make our,
experience,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would imagine too, like, there's probably certain states of mind where it's going to be really hard to like navigate and learn complex
Yeah.
information. But there's other
Yeah.
times where, yeah, when you're feeling in a safer space where we can do more like learning and
For sure.
apply it.
For sure.
Um, so for someone like this letter writer, which again,
Mhm.
there was
Mhm.
so much that was unpacked, but there was like so
Mhm.
much that I know listeners can
Mhm.
relate to,
Yeah.
especially if they've tried to not diet or
Yeah.
tried to recover.
Yeah.
What are some like steps that you'd recommend? Like, what are some first few steps for someone that's in
Yeah.
this space?
So I think particularly for this letter writer is finding moments of safety for their nervous
Oh,
system is really important.
yes. Yeah.
Whether those moments are inside, outside, or in between, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
there's definitely a little bit of support that we could give for that IBS. Clearly, I am not
Mm-hmm.
going to advise a low FODMAP. That is not where we're going here. But we could do a low FODMAP enzyme if that was
Yeah.
appropriate. We
Yeah.
could do a little encapsulated peppermint, like enteric coated peppermint, and just see if that helps that the reactivity and the perception of pain.
Mm-hmm.
But honestly, they may not be able to access cues of safety from inside for a while. So
Yeah.
then I would start looking at where are cues that we could get outside or in between relationships with others. Like, do we need to do my favorite type of detox, which is a social media detox?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do we
Same.
need to, come up with some phrases that we can use when people make comments? Somebody says, "Oh, I can't eat blah, blah, blah because I haven't exercised." And you have a stock comment in your back pocket, which is like, what an odd thing to say. Like, can we
Mm-hmm.
find moments of safety inside, outside, or in between wherever we can? And uh, my guess is at first we might have to work not inside with this person because it's going to be so hard to tune inside.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what an outside, give me some more
Yeah.
examples on that. What does that look like?
Yeah. It could really be anything. I mean, Deb Dana, polyvagal therapist Deb Dana calls them glimmers. So it's
Uh-huh.
like looking for these micro moments of
Yes.
safety. You're going to laugh at me, but I always
Never.
find a glimmer at the end of the day when I take my bra off for the day. And it's like,
Come on. Anyone who wears a bra is going to understand that.
But also, I was recently at my folks' house, and it was such a hilarious one. They have a tree in their backyard, and you know how the wind blows the
Mhm.
tree and the leaves are blowing beautifully. There was this one leaf that was unhinged. Like the thing was just like flying around here or there. And we spent the entire visit just laughing at this leaf. And every time we saw it, it was just this moment of like, okay, that's what safety feels like, you
Yeah,
know?
so what's going on in the body during those glimmers?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think a few things. Like we're moving more into a parasympathetic,
Uh-huh.
approach from the nervous system. Like historically, we would have called that rest and digest, but we know that the body is, the adrenaline is going down in those moments. The
Mhm.
the hormones of care and concern and connection are going up. And I think for this point, like the most important piece is in those moments of safety, somebody actually is able to eat intuitively. Somebody is
Mm.
actually able to have choice. They're able to seek connection from other people and receive that connection and not have it be like harmful.
Mhm. Mhm.
So even if it isn't about food, even if it's about something completely different,
Yeah.
just finding those moments of safety can be transformative.
So then does it look like trying to add in more glimmers throughout the day to like start to like
Yeah.
experience more safety and have more of like a understanding or a knowing of it? Is that what that looks like?
I think the slightly different wording that I would use is
Mhm.
maybe not add in, because that feels a little of effort. So
Good
maybe we
idea.
can just notice, you know what I mean? Like
Notice,
this
yes.
morning,
Yes.
I was first thing up in the morning, I was in my bathroom and there was a bunny in the backyard trying to stretch for something, and it was hilarious,
I
this
love
bunny.
that.
But in past lives, in previous nervous system states, like I would have seen that, moved away, gone off with my day. We got to go, 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 go. I got all these things to do.
Mhm.
Here we go. And I saw it and I was like, oh my gosh, that's amazing. I
Yeah,
love
yeah,
bunny. And
yes.
just that moment, I didn't have to reach for it. I didn't have to try to create it. But in noticing if you do that more and more, it really transforms things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I love that. Yeah, and the wording you're using it reminds me of my therapist. Because, then let's call it notice, Julie, instead of add in. That's, like,
Yeah.
totally classic for my current therapist.
I do
So, I love
appreciate
that.
the therapy speak. I really do. They got
Oh,
some
it's
good ones.
important. I mean, I think there's a nuance to it. There's a
Yep.
gentleness,
Yep.
but it's intentional,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So, I love this so much. So I mentioned earlier that you have a book that's coming out about
Yeah.
trauma.
Yeah.
And when I read through this letter, I was like, this is like such a common experience. And I think
Yeah.
people who are trying to do some of their recovery work on their own often
Mhm.
have so much trauma that's layered in. And also we like live in this like world. Like there's
Mhm.
some clients who are going to be like consistently traumatized just opening the front door.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so tell us about your book.
Yeah.
How can this letter writer use it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Who's it for?
Absolutely. So I definitely very intentionally wrote it for clients.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of postgraduate nutrition interns at the moment, and they're all
Uh-huh.
like, "Oh, I can't wait to read it." I'm like, "Well, it's really not for you as a provider. It is really for the clients." And
Yeah.
if I really had to kind of do a too long didn't read on it, I would say that we're moving toward what is healthy for any individual. I don't define what healthy means because I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know. I don't know who
We
my
don't
reader
know.
is,
I'm the same with you. Yeah,
right?
we have a lot of similarities.
I
I
don't
love
know.
it. Yeah.
But what I do suggest, and it was fascinating to me to read your book last night, and I was like, oh, this is hilarious. I really have people design, like, what is my toolkit?
Uh-huh.
What is my approach to eating when I'm really experiencing a lot of survival states?
Mm-hmm.
Far before, like, I don't even want to touch it when we're in ventral. But
No.
eventually, when we spend more time in ventral, then it's about like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, the gentle nutrition pieces. Like, might we
Mm-hmm.
notice that, every time you drink 4 cups of coffee a day, you get a migraine? But we don't do that first. That is absolutely not what we
Yeah.
do
It's
first. The
not,
first
yeah.
approach is just how can we get back to safety, and how can we get back to
Mm-hmm.
regulation, and what might that look like for any given individual with food.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's you're a dietitian, right? So like having a dietitian write a book about trauma is really
Is weird.
interesting.
Oh my
I
gosh,
mean,
it's so
come
weird.
on, I'm a weirdo dietitian. So I mean, I welcome the weird. But yeah, like
Yeah.
welcome fellow weird dietitian. I love it so much.
Yeah.
So what makes your trauma book different as a dietitian? Like what makes it
Um,
unique?
well, okay. I'm feeling a little spicy. Can I give you a little spicy?
I love it. Yeah, this is a
I
podcast
fig-
that's for adults only, so
I
spice
figured
away.
you'd like a little spice. So when I exist in the mental health nutrition space,
Mhm.
um, in today's climate, it can sometimes be incredibly maddening
Mhm.
because it is all about the what. What do we need people to eat?
Yeah.
What is good? What is bad? Let me vomit a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
And And what's fascinating to me is when you go to these conferences that talk about mental health nutrition, which of course I have, and I will continue to, because I need CEs and I want to hear, different
Yeah.
perspectives. Like, you will have this very restrictive, everybody should do keto. Oh, it hasn't been studied for eating disorders, but we're really curious about it.
Hmm.
Right alongside a therapist presenting about polyvagal theory and safety.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody is making the connection of all the fear that comes from, these approaches where you're purportedly trying to help somebody's mental health with food. At the same time, you are triggering and propagating trauma to their nervous system. I just think
Mm-hmm.
of like a client I had who was told that by her physician, this was an actual MD, um, you won't get healthy until you stop eating your one cupcake that you have a year for your birthday.
Oh gosh, that's so ridiculous.
And I was like, oh, well, that's fascinating, like, and so I just, the thing that
What
I
was going
think
on with that MD? Like that to have that like
their nervous
absolute.
system state is that I think
Yes.
that, like, looking back at this letter writer, I think the thing that I would encourage them to do when they hear other people say that shit,
Yeah.
it's like, what are you hearing? You're hearing their dysregulation.
Yeah. I mean, that is the goal with anyone in their own relationship with food when they hear other people talk about it and they like put it on them. It's like, oh my, this is
It's
like
not.
classic projection. Like
Yes.
it's
Yep.
especially as parents with the kids. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like it makes it blaringly obvious what our work is to do, but unfortunately the person there thinks it's
Yeah.
theirs. Yeah,
Yeah.
and talking about the conferences where there's like a diet recommendation
Yeah.
for mental health, but then there's also like trauma conversations and it's like this disconnect. I mean, I think the bridge, if we could ever, I mean, or just the way to blow it all up really, is like we have to acknowledge how traumatic dieting is. Like
Yep.
and but like that, I think like we're part of the few people that will probably just even notice that. And
Yeah.
especially as dietitians, it's really easy
Yeah.
for us to see that
Yeah.
because we're like spending time sifting through your relationship with food. But
Yeah.
why can't everybody else see it? That's like working in healthcare or
Yeah.
as a therapist, because
Yeah.
it's so obvious to me. But
It's
I think
glaringly obvious. And I don't, you call it the big cry. I didn't have
mm-hmm,
a big cry, but I did have a client where all of a sudden I was like, oh crap, all the stuff I learned, not all the stuff I learned in school, but like the
mm-hmm,
whole approach to being very prescriptive about recommendations and just being so rigid
mm-hmm.
is just wrong. But I think the thing that I will say is, for a lot of people, rigidity feels safe.
Yeah, yeah. Like the doctor recommending that one
Yeah.
cupcake or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was so calming to that doctor
Yeah.
to
Right.
be
And
like, yeah, then
what's
everything's neat and tidy then.
absolutely, and what's their training, right? Their training is, we're
Yeah.
going to do a specific medication for a specific amount of time at a specific dosage. Like, that's the training. The liminal space, the gray area, the wiggle room, like,
Mhm.
that is hard for
Yeah.
people to get.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
nutrition is only gray.
It's only nuance. It is only
It's all
nuance.
it is. Like
Yeah.
nutrition science is never black and white. And if you
No.
try to make it, it's you just can't control for those variables. That's
Yeah.
why a cupcake a year or a day, I
I
mean, really
can't
to
do that.
me, both the same. So like,
Yeah. Yeah. And
oh
what they did,
man.
like, what that recommendation did was arguably, I think easily arguably, more damage than, I don't think the cupcake is gonna do any damage, but, like,
Let's just say it did. Yeah. Yeah.
more damage in terms of the
Yeah.
wear and tear on the client's nervous system than the cupcake
Yeah.
ever possibly would.
Mm. So does your book go into some of that, like the how our nervous system, when it's impacted and how it affects our health?
Yeah, we do talk
Okay.
about it a lot because with trauma, we have there is often an increased inflammatory load in the body. There just is. And we see that expressed in all kinds of ways. We see that expressed in asthma. We see that expressed in cardiovascular disease. We see that expressed in, I mean, name a disease and I can find you a tie to trauma. And then the question becomes, what is modifiable?
Yeah, of course.
And what is safe to modify? What is going to bring safety if we modify? So,
I like that.
Looking at the crazy leaf, man, that for me was safe to modify.
Yes,
like, that's safe. And there might be other things for this particular letter person, like a FODMAP is not going to be safe. It might bring some signals of safety to the body because they're not having such unrelenting, potentially, maybe, we don't even know. But it's not going to be safe to their nervous system because it's going to be so triggering. So it's like, what is safe to the person in front of me?
So Meg, tell me the name of your book.
Yeah. So it's called This Is Your Body on Trauma: How to Nourish Safety, Resilience, and Connection with Polyvagal Informed Nutrition. And it is out October 28th.
I love it. Is there an easy way for people to find it, or can they just get it where books are sold?
Go to my website, which is megbowmannutrition.com. And then there's links to large retailers and independent retailers, and also links to audio versions, which I got the privilege to record. So fun.
I love that. Well, I'll also put it in I have a bookshop store, like a virtual storefront. So I'll put it in there too. So, and links for all of that will be below for anyone listening or watching. So I'm so excited to read it. I cannot wait. It sounds like we have like this kind of like parallel kind of experience, but they go well together. So I cannot wait. And
I think we sometimes use different language, but I just saw so many similarities.
I love that so much. It'll be a nice bundle package then. Well, thank you so much, Meg. It was so great to meet you, and thank you for helping me with this letter.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed my discussion with Meg Bowman. And like I said at the beginning, I am so excited for this book, and I can't wait to hear what you think about it as well. Before I sign off, the next episode will be in 2 weeks, and it is a chat with my team, with Colleen and Rachel. And I've heard from a lot of you who listened to our last chat talking about the Fit for TV documentary. If you didn't catch it, you can catch it in the show notes below. So the team is coming together to do another deep dive in some current diet culture BS, because the world keeps giving us more and more. It just always will be giving. So dear Voice Finder, until next time, take care.
Home is with you wherever that may be.